Darren, what have been your key learnings from the morning? What's emerged from the discussions and the presentations you've heard?
Thanks, Pete. I suppose my first learning was I wasn't quite clear on quite how hard I was going to be working today. And apologies for you hearing my voice on a number of occasions. I think I suppose there's a lot of learning that comes out of a room like this. And I'm always mindful that there is one of my colleagues who deals with our landscape scale work always refers to the super brain that's in the room. So there's a lot of questions being asked, and if I'm honest, sitting here, I don't have all the answers. I'm sure John would agree that he doesn't. And actually, the probability, though, is the answers are in the heads of the people who are in the room. And I think that's the real opportunity around this gathering and the Midlands Forest Network. We have put together a partnership. We have great people now working for us. We have Charlotte and Sita who've joined as part of the team that are going to help us drive this forward. But driving it forward comes from the information and intellectual capacity that is in this room that you will hopefully share willingly and hopefully bring this to life. And I think the other thing that I'm mindful of is what somebody told me when I first took over as Chief Executive of the Woodland Trust. They said, be mindful that your mistakes will live long in the landscape. And I think I actually am a glass half full person. Actually, your successes live long in the landscape. And our opportunity is for the Midlands Forest Network to be a landscape legacy for all of us. And as Sir John said earlier, for those children and children's children that come after us.
Thank you, Darren. John, anything that's surprised or sort of resonated with you this morning?
I'm just reflecting on whoever said that to Darren. It's a very challenging thing to say early on in your tenure. I think three things for me come across. One is just the nature of what I'm feeling, which is that people want this to be perhaps more ambitious than we set out, and that's great. I think that's really encouraging. And I think, as partners doing some leadership in this space, we're really keen to take that on board. I think the second thing was feeling some of the priorities of people around the room, and we just heard around finance there's a definite need to simplify what is a really complicated process. The kind of access and disability and benefits in that space came through really strongly. Research elements also that we perhaps haven't reflected fully. So there's a number of things there that will help us refine the vision, I think, and add to it with other layers of partnerships that we can build in. And then more of a personal one, which is just relief is the wrong word, but perhaps I'm reassured that people feel that what we've got here can resonate. So I'm feeling a sense of optimism around what we've got here and the ability to take it further into something that can have that really big impact. So, those would be my three, I think.
And there's some slides here, first of which I think you're speaking to, about the next steps. Did you want to move into those?
Yeah, not to get into too much detail, but just to give you that confidence that, it's great to have you around the room today and to input. The forum that we're setting up will be the main vehicle through which we will continue that communication. So we'd encourage you to sign up if you haven't, get everyone else to sign up in order to keep that conversation flowing. The network will be as strong as all of its individuals and nodes. So do please contribute to that. And where is Charlotte and Zita? Would you mind just standing up so people know who you are? So we've got a project team in post now. Charlotte's our project manager and Zita's our project coordinator. We've also just recruited an evidence officer yesterday who I'm told has accepted, which is a good sign. So we have a project team that will do much of that facilitation for us. And, through the forum, we'll be convening a range of different workshops, activities, newsletters to keep everyone in the loop and to use everyone's expertise as we move that forward. So there'll be these opportunities for stakeholders like yourselves to get engaged. And then as we move on to communities, we won't necessarily be doing that interface directly with communities as Midlands Forest Network. We'll be looking for a lot of our partners to be able to do that for us through the kind of umbrella bodies that we will be engaging. So there are opportunities to encourage yourselves and those umbrella groups to involve and bring forward all of those community groups that we know will have an impact. That's going to be one of the biggest challenges, actually, is how we really bring this to a community focus. I think that's some of the learning that we'll need to use through the network to make sure that they all have a voice.
Okay. And what are your biggest hopes to the two of you?
My biggest hopes, gosh. I think my biggest hope is that we can keep momentum going. These things, when you start them off, it's very easy to get overexcited and to build on the optimism, and then they can wane. And I really feel we can keep building this. So it's about keeping momentum going, absolutely.
Yeah, and I suppose mine is that everybody involved wins. And I think if we can get to that place, so I'll give you an example. So on the funding, looking directly at Naomi, I think the talk about private finance is really important, but it can't take away from public support, both funding and in people's sort of hearts and minds. I think I hope that one doesn't supplement the other, and also we don't lose sight of the fact there's an awful lot of private funding already going into how land is managed, and that can play its part already. So there's a huge amount of private finance out there, and the investment work that Richard and Artie were talking about, I've kind of always felt has been a little bit on the horizon. And my hope is we're now quite close to that horizon. And we can bring that with the private finance that's already there and the public finance, because that will drive the scale of change that we need. Because, as I said earlier, we need to be unapologetically bold. And my hope is that you will all be unapologetically bold as you go out and talk about what the network can be.